What's up, Melanated family? This is your boy Harrison bringing you another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast, my weekly show. If this is your first time listening to the show, basically what we do here is have interesting conversations about different topics going on in the community. We have news stories that we talk about. Of course, I like to speak specifically about black businesses. I can't say it enough. I think the economics of our community is extremely important with how we move forward, how we unify with each other. A lot of these things are based on finances, so I like to make sure I mention and give props, bring awareness to different black businesses around the country. Some of them are local because I do create relationships with people that are around me, people that are in the city that I live in. So, at times I will mention a local business, but I try to make sure it's a local business that if you're in a different city or state, you would still be able to purchase goods and services from, just to make it more palatable for everybody, right? So thank you for tuning into another episode of my show, man. It's a really hectic time going on right now with all the coronavirus shit going on and all the confusion surrounding this virus, who can get it, who can't, what states are locked in home or what states are still under the shelter in place rule, which states aren't, right? So it's still a lot of confusion going on behind this coronavirus thing, man, but it's important that we stay positive, that we understand that ultimately we're going to be out of this situation, and when we are, how we come out of this situation will be like a determining factor of the strength and how strong we are as a people, right? And being black folks, all of the ailments that we had before this coronavirus madness, I'm sure all of them are still going to be there. So like I've been telling people, man, if your employment was for any reason considered non-essential, maybe for all of us, maybe some of the things going on right now, you can use as a catalyst to start a new career. You can use as a catalyst to get more involved in your community. You can use it as a catalyst to work out more, to spend more time with the people around you that you love. Like, I like to look at any situation that could be deemed negative. We need to take the positives out of this situation so we can move forward in the best light possible, right? Because like I said, even if this lasts 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, whatever the case may be, ultimately we will come out of this. And when we come out of this, I would recommend everybody attempt to be stronger, to be more confident, to be more well-rounded. And like I said, if that requires you to find a new job, maybe your job is considered non-essential, and now you realize, you know what? I don't want to work there no more. I don't want to do that with my life no more. You know what I'm saying? And for the people who are working jobs that are considered essential, we got to take our hat off to those people who are working in grocery stores, who are working as delivery drivers and things of that nature, because like I said before, I haven't spoke much about the coronavirus situation because it's really confusing to me. I don't know who to believe. I don't trust the government, and at this point, that's primarily where we're getting a lot of our information from. I know a lot of brothers and sisters in the conscious community have different theories about whether it's 5G, whether it's started by the government. Like I said before, man, in any case, this coronavirus is having a real effect, whether it's real or not, whether it's fabricated or not, whether the actual death numbers are as high as they are. What's actually happening is we are being affected. Our day-to-day lives are being affected. Our kids aren't going to school. Most people can't work. The roads are empty, So I don't know what's going on. I don't know how real the coronavirus is. Every other day I cut on the news or read different news stories. It's telling me that this black person died of coronavirus. This mother or two that's black died of coronavirus. And I'll be honest, y'all, I don't know how true that is. I know a lot of people are feeling like, when I'm on social media and different social media platforms, people are like, stay at home. If you want to save lives, stay at home, stay at home, stay at home. I'm not going to tell nobody what to do during this time. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know how real this shit is at all. And again, it is frustrating for me at times, because for some people that I know who are typically completely against the government, it's as far as how the government conducts themselves, what information they give us, how truthful they are. They don't trust the government. But then when we look at this coronavirus shit, all the information we're getting is from the government, family. When somebody dies, you can say they died of anything. You see what I'm saying? Somebody could die of a heart attack and they could have had a coronavirus or the flu-like symptoms and they could be saying this person died of coronavirus when it really was a heart. I mean, we just don't know, right? And because I don't know, I'm not giving y'all no advice on what you should do. If you think this is real and you want to err on the side of caution and wear a mask everywhere you go and wear gloves everywhere you go and make sure your kids stay in the house and don't go outside at all, do that. If you think this is some bullshit and you ain't walking around with no mask on, you ain't walking around with no gloves on, I'm not gonna call you stupid. You see what I'm saying? I think sometimes because we all have the ability to speak, right? Social media gives all of us a platform to say how we feel. I get that. I appreciate it. Social media has helped me out like so much in my journey in starting Melanated Fathers of America and everything. But at the same time, who are you to tell people stay in the house? Who are you to tell people if y'all don't stay in the house, it's gonna keep getting worse? I can't believe y'all. I can't believe you ain't got a mask on. I mean, look, you don't know what the fuck is going on. And because of that, I think all of us should just sit back, pay attention. Now, of course, like I said, we're not going to school, we're not going to work, so something's going on. So again, if you want to wear a mask here and there, if you want to err on the side of caution and do things that you feel will prevent your family from getting this disease or getting this virus, by all means, do that. You feel me? But don't put that on nobody else. Whatever you feel is going on, you can tell. I think, you know, it can be productive for you to talk about it, tell people, give your perspective. Perspective is great, but don't come down on other people when they don't conduct themselves the same way you decided to. You feel me? So, first things first, first thing I like to do on the show is talk about different news stories that are going on in the world, different news stories that I feel are prevalent to today's discussion or things that have just been on my mind and I want to talk about them, right? So the first thing I want to talk about today, I'm in Sacramento, California. Near me is a city called Rancho Cordova. I just seen a video maybe an hour ago, actually. I just seen a video about an hour ago of a cop. And again, I don't know the context behind this video. The young brother in the video was talking a little bit, so I know a little bit about what he said, but the complete details surrounding the situation, I'm not sure. But this is what I do know. 14-year-old boy was walking in the Rancho Cordova area. I think he had some weed on him. He had a blunt on him, something along those lines. The video I seen is of a police officer beating the shit out of this little boy. I mean, the boy is 14 years old. The police officer has his head steeped in the dirt. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't break his fucking neck, right? So, of course, family, we understand, even in times like this, we understand that we are still the primary target when it comes to law enforcement. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. That's the truth, right? But here's the thing. What do we do? How do you conduct yourself when pulled over by police? How do you interact with a cop when you feel that you can be in the right? When you feel they're pulling you over or they're bothering you for no reason at all. And keep in mind, if you black and you live in urban communities or just black in general, a lot of times you have experienced these negative interactions with cops, right? And some people seem to take the stance that if police pulls me over and I'm in the right, fuck them. I'm a stand up. I'm going to, I don't want to use the word resist because they kind of put the resisting arrest shit on us regardless of what we do. But to a degree, you decide I'm going to resist. If you want to put my hand behind my back, I'm not going to do it. If you want to grab me and put me in the car, I'm not going to do it. Here's the thing, family. I'm completely for our people standing up to anybody in the face of oppression. Anybody, a cop, any man. I mean, you bleed like I bleed. But here's the logistics behind the situation. We're in the United States of America. If you get into an interaction with a police officer, how I see it is at that point, you're behind enemy lines, family. You're not just dealing with that police officer. He has a police union behind him. He has several thousand cops behind him. It's way more than just that one cop that you're dealing with. And we all know if he do blow your fucking brains out, he ain't going to jail, right? So I tell my kids and how I like to conduct my life. If I get put over by a cop, wrong or right, I'm going to be a man and say how I feel. But at the same time, if a cop tells you to put your hands behind your back, put your hands behind your back. If a cop tells you get in the car, get in the car, even if you don't feel like you did nothing, because in my opinion, at this point, family, you're beyond enemy lines. They can just say you moved wrong. They can just say you did anything and blow your fucking brains out. Now, some people would say they may do that to you anyway, right? But I say let's put yourself in the best position to make it home. So then you can fight, whether that be legally, whether that be any other way you want to go about doing it, right? But we cops are like members of the military to me to a degree, family. And we, being civilians, being black, we behind the 8 ball with a lot of this shit. So even with that, because a young brother, just watching the video, it appeared that he wasn't trying to let the cop put his hands behind his back. He was, because he was like, what the fuck you doing? I was just smoking. If you want to give me a citation or bring me to jail, whatever, there's a way to do it. But he was being way too aggressive with him, right? But at the end of the day, young man, you have been caught behind enemy lines with a police officer, with a race soldier who has a pistol who can blow your fucking brains out. You have to use tact. I guess that's the best word I'm looking for. You have to be tactful in how you want to pursue these things, because you can lose your life, and at the end of the day, they just give your mama and daddy a couple $100,000 and he ain't going to jail or nothing gonna happen to him. You feel me? So if you want to put yourself in the best position to be effective and to possibly get this cop charged or something, you need to get his badge number. You need to get as much information you can about him. But physically resisting can get your life took. You feel me? So I hope the young brother is okay. I didn't get his name or any information about him. I just wanted to speak on that situation because it hurt my heart to see that cop with his knee in his back. And this is a 14-year-old boy who was a small child, who was a frail child. You see what I'm saying? And again, family, we talk about some of these instances because, I'm open for the proof of this, but to my knowledge, we are the only ones in America that get this type of treatment from police officers. I guess they're just not taking the videos of the 15, 16-year-old white kids that they whooping ass, or they bending their arms all around their goddamn back until they almost snap in half, right? So if this is happening to Asian kids, if it's happening to white kids in America, I don't see it and have never seen it, just to be honest. So that leads me to believe that this is a black issue. This is a melanated issue, right? So you got to know that getting pulled over by a cop, being around a cop, how I feel, that's all. Now again, all cops aren't bad. We know this. We don't have to keep repeating this. There's no absolutes in the universe. All cops aren't bad. But a lot of the interactions I've had with cops haven't been good ones. Even though I've had okay interactions with police officers, for the most part, the interactions haven't been positive. Their energy and their aura sometimes just is real funny style, based on everything that I've seen. You feel me? Based on how I've seen them treat my brothers, how I've seen them treat what they perceived as low lives, young men who selling drugs, or young men who are living on the other side of the law for some particular reason. Just because somebody decides to sell drugs or do any crime of that sort, that don't mean you can fuck them up. That don't mean you can put your hands on them. That don't mean you can degrade them and disrespect them. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of us in our community have a real fractured relationship with police officers, but at the same time, it's more of them than us to a degree. They have the system behind them. You feel me? So if you get pulled over, if you get into a position where you have to speak to a police officer, be prideful. I'm not ever telling you to put your head down and talk all low and shit because he got on a uniform. Fuck that. Be prideful, but at the same time, be smart. You feel me? So hopefully that young brother got home safe. Hopefully he don't have to deal with any charges. Hopefully this video, because the video, from my understanding, looked like it was on its way to going viral. So if so, hopefully this officer is reprimanded. And again, I just don't really have any faith in this system. So it's difficult for me to look at that and think, okay, he finna lose his job or anything negative is gonna happen to him. Hence why he feels okay to do the type of shit in the first place, right? So understand, family, that we have several different enemies in this country. White supremacy being one of them. The police system, the police unions, the police in the United States, some of them are operating as a fraction of racism, white supremacy. So we have to be understanding of these things and be aware of what we're dealing with, right? Yelling and screaming at the cop, motherfucker, you ain't gonna do this to me. He'll blow your brains out and go home, family. That's not smart. We got to figure out a different way to get the desired results that we want, right? So, next story that I want to talk about. Oh, and also, so we're talking about, how the young brother was treated in Rancho Cordova. Hopefully, like I said, he didn't go to jail. Hopefully, that video goes viral and something, and this cop gets reprimanded in some way or another, right? So next news story I want to talk about, a rapper by the name of Fred The Godson, who supposedly had coronavirus or COVID-19. He's passed away. This happened a couple days ago, so I want to send my condolences to the family. Anytime somebody in hip hop passes away, it kind of hits home with me just as much as I love the art form. Even though Fred The Godson wasn't an artist that I listened to as far as his particular bodies of work, but I've definitely heard the brother rap. I paid close attention to how revered he was in the music industry. He was really close to a lot of big name artists. So, really, really unfortunate situation. And again, when I heard about that, I can't believe what they tell me at face value like that, family. So when they tell me the brother died of COVID-19, I don't know what else he was dealing with health-wise. I know the brother was a little bigger, so I don't know if he had diabetes. I don't know if he had high blood pressure. I don't know what else he was dealing with his health to actually put him in that position. So again, you can think what you want to think, but in my mind, I don't look at those type of instances and say, okay, damn, he died from COVID-19. I better stay in the house. I better wear my mask. I don't know what the fuck these folks is doing. You feel me? But in that brother's situation, regardless, he's not here no more. I think he had kids. He had a wife. I'm sure he has a large family or people who loved him. You see what I'm saying? So really, really, really sad news for hip hop. Again, the brother Fred The Godson, I think he was only 35 years old too, right? So this is a young brother, man. Some of these young brothers is dying damn near before their life start, or damn near before they get settled in their life, and start getting the things that they actually want out of life. So that's a really, really unfortunate incident, really unfortunate situation. Rest in peace to the brother Fred Godson. Now, another story that was it's not funny. I apologize for laughing, but this story was kind of weird to me, right? So a 17-year-old white kid named, what state is he out of? I didn't really get the actual state that he was out of, but a 17-year-old white kid named Levy Norwood, apparently his parents told him that they didn't want him dating a black girl, and this little motherfucker went off. So they told him they didn't want him dating a black girl. He got home from school one day and actually killed his 34-year-old mother, killed his 6-year-old brother, and actually waited for his father to get home, his 37-year-old father to get home, and shot his father in the head, right? So apparently, all of this is over the fact that they told him he couldn't date a black girl. I'm thinking in my head, like, God damn, that thing must have been fire, right? To make this fool want to kill his whole family, you know what I'm saying? And it's a really sad story, though, because he shoots his dad in the head. His dad doesn't die. Shortly after that, his dad, dealing with the fact that his wife is gone and effectively both of his kids are gone, he actually killed himself, right? So that's an extremely tragic situation. And just how it played out, how the race element had me kind of interested in it. Like, damn, did he love a black girl that much? Was he that heavy into anti-racism? Or was he kind of fucking crazy? Because a lot of times when a young white person like this kills us, or if they go on a little spree and kill 2, 3, 4 black people, first thing they say is something's wrong with them. Mentally ill, boom, 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 boom. That's the first thing they go to. I'm curious to know, in this situation, are they going to use that same thing and say, okay, he was mentally this? Because to me, just looking at this is more of a situation of a white kid being mentally disturbed, opposed to them walking into a church and killing hella black people. To me, that's more intended. That's more based on race. That's more based on not liking a particular ethnicity as people. You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, because again, typically when it's a white kid or a white man who goes on a nonsensical rampage like this and kills us, he always gets an out, right? So I'm curious to see how they're going to play it with him, because I don't think he did it because he loved black people. Maybe he loved maybe he loved that little black pussy, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think he felt a particular way about us, because it came out that his parents didn't want him to see the black girl. They made some comments about her race, and that just turned him, you know what I'm saying? That just flipped him out and made him kill his whole goddamn family. So what kind of shit is that, right? Tell me how y'all feel about that. Do you think that was because he loved black people? Do you think he was just in love with that little girl? Do you think he hated his parents anyway? Like, he been having problems with his parents anyway? You know how, I don't mean to stereotype, but it's some true shit. You know how white kids kind of have this freedom to speak to their parents the way they want to, and kind of look at their parents as subordinates to a degree, like their parents should listen to them, that type of shit, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if those elements were in play or where his mind was. If I get more updates on this story, I'll let you guys know. But in my mind, I was reading this story like, that's some crazy shit, right? Now, next news story I want to talk about. Now, of course, not necessarily a news story, but just to get back on the coronavirus thing, the last thing I will say, when we're looking at Donald Trump and all of the, just how fucking, he's an idiot, right? All of the things he says, and he contradicts himself, and it's laughable, right? And people come at Donald Trump now, and they're coming at him because of how he's handling this pandemic and how he's handling this situation. I mean, this guy's been an asshole, right? Most of us, especially in our community, we didn't want to vote for Donald Trump. We didn't want him to be in office. So you guys voted him in there. Most of the populace of America voted for Donald Trump, and we kind of get what we pay. You know what I'm saying? I'm curious to know the general Donald Trump supporter who voted him in office. How do you feel about him now? Like, what's your natural inclination of how this guy has been performing? Because this is some buffoon shit, right? So I understand there's some things before all of this happened. I understand there's some things he's done to improve the economy in certain instances. But when I look at a president, when I look at a politician, I look at their list of things they've accomplished, the list of things they've been able to do. To me, if it doesn't affect my community directly, like if it doesn't directly affect my community, it's difficult for me to even give a fuck about it, man. When we look at the finances of black folks, when we look at the conditions of black folks, we've never really had a president come out and say, okay, I'm going to help black people, right? And people say, well, no president's supposed to come out and help anyone in particular. Well, that's bullshit. Obama, the quote-unquote black president, helped Mexicans specifically, right? He got on TV and specifically said it was okay to gay people to get married. So he single-handedly positively affected both of their cultures, right? So when you say he couldn't have done that for us, that's bullshit. And Donald Trump, I mean, besides being a good businessman, he's a piece of shit and a racist too. You see what I'm saying? So when I look at, and again, this is the president, so I'm not going to listen to him talk now that something serious is going on and all of a sudden take everything he say as the gospel. I'm taking what he say with a grain of salt because I don't trust that motherfucker. Just like I don't trust any of the current politicians, in my opinion. I haven't seen one or met one. I haven't met many, but I haven't met one or seen one that I feel is just and kind of has a black agenda and thinks that they can do some things specifically for my community. A lot of them just seem like they be just running a game. You see what I'm saying? So when I go to CNBC or Fox News or CNN and all these different news stations, and one news station may not like Trump, so they're talking about the coronavirus, but they're slanting everything towards a negative aspect towards him, like what he's not doing. The other news stations do the same shit, aiming at Democrats. I mean, it's just a game that everybody's playing. You feel me? So instead of like digging deep into that game and being a part of that mentally, if you want to see the country improve, or if there's things about the United States that you don't like, if there's things about your community that you don't like, get off your ass and try to help. Get off your ass and try to fix some of it. You feel me? That's what I recommend. Now, again, local politics, the school districts, everything around me, voting in those instances can produce change. Of course, you're still putting your hopes and your prayer into a politician that, to me, that's like AKA liar to a degree, right? It's almost like you have to fabricate and kind of lie and lead people on a little bit just to get to where you want to go. But that's the nature of politics. So But even with that being the case, I think there is a place for us to be involved with politics locally, where we can get something out of it and see the benefits of operating in that manner. But just looking at the whole political landscape, looking at how the COVID-19 epidemic, or pandemic rather, has been reported on, I'm still in a really big, I'm still confused, right? I'm still not sure who's telling me the truth. I'm still not sure what the real mission of all of this is. Like, why do you want all of us in the house, right? So that's how I'm thinking about all this shit when I see it. But again, family, it's important to watch the news. It's important to pay attention to what's going on with those things, not to be gullible and go by every word they say. But for me, it's almost like, okay, I want to know what my enemy's thinking about. I want to know how my enemies conducted themselves. What plans do my enemy have for me? See, so we got to look at all of this thing from like a third eye aspect, in my opinion, where we're looking at what's not being said. We're looking at what they're not doing, right? So you just got to be mindful of everything that you hear and you read, so you don't become so gullible. Because I see people online, I'm not gonna say no names, but I see people online that hear what happens on the news, they go right to Facebook and report it like it's the gospel. And like I said a little earlier, family, we don't know what's going on. That's why, like I said, if you want to cover up completely and wear a mask and gloves everywhere you go and live by that and be 6 feet away from everybody you see, fine. If you say, fuck wearing a mask, I'm going to operate how I want to operate out here, I don't believe none of this shit, I'm not going to knock that person either. You see what I'm saying? Because I don't know. So I think sometimes it's irresponsible for us to get on platforms and speak definitively about shit that we really don't know about. It's okay to say my opinion, right? It's okay to say my opinion. It's okay to say I'm not sure, right? All of these are phrases that can be healthy, especially when communicating with other people, right? All right, so that's it for the news stories for today. Now, my favorite part of the show that I like to get into the most, because of how important finances are, because of how important black business are, because of how far and few in between we actually have suitable, qualified black businesses, I like to make it a point to speak about the different black businesses in our country, and I like to call it the Black Business Spotlight right now. First business I want to talk about, this is my boy that I've talked about several times on the show. Even before I had the podcast, or before I was doing the podcast, I had this brother on my website, Melanated Fathers of America, by the way. That's melanatedfathers.com. I had him on the website, interviewed him about his vegan lifestyle, about his conscious way of thinking, about his music career, all these different things. That's my boy, Mr. Lewis. Now, he has a platform that he's basically been able to take everything he's doing and put it in one area for you. So if you go to rebuildingtheculture.com, that's rebuildingtheculture.com. It's my boy Mr. Lewis's website. Not only will you find most of his music, he makes conscious music, but it sounds real good, like the shit be knocking on the real, you feel me? So it's really good music. You can find his albums there. You can find his clothing line, which is called Goddess. He has sweaters that he makes with Goddess on them for female. He has a God mode sweaters and shirts for men. So the clothing line is popping. He has all his music on the website. I think he'll post on the website different events he's going to be performing at and different things he's going to be doing. So if you guys can, man, tap in with the brother, buy a sweater, buy some music. If you got Tidal, I got Tidal. I'm not much of a music purchaser these days. I typically pay for Tidal every month for me and my family and listen to all the music I like through there. So you can go to Tidal and find a lot of his music there. That's Mr. M''Ster Lewis on Tidal, and listen to some of his music. If you're on Facebook, look up his name, show him some love, comment in the videos that he's doing, share a lot of his shit, you know what I'm saying? I think when I look at hip hop, as much as I love hip hop, as much as I'm involved in the culture and just love the lyricism and love the different regions the rappers come from, I love the story of a young brother coming from nothing and using his mind, right? Using his wordplay, using his intellectual property to make money and provide a better future for his family. That's like beautiful to me, right? But at the same time, depending on what type of music you make, it may be a little more difficult for you to break that surface, because if we turn on the radio, most of the hip hop that's on the radio, and this is a transition I'm making as, I would say, an older person, or a person that's getting a little bit older. I'll be 40 next month. I don't really listen to the music that's on the radio. But when I was young, everything I liked was on the radio, right? You can listen to the radio for 30 minutes and hear all the singles that you was fucking with. These days, a lot of the rap is kind of based on harmony. A lot of the rap is based on negative stereotypes to a degree, because even though some of these guys who are making these singles about smoking, drinking lean, a lot of street shit in there, some of them are making these simple songs that the public like, and these simple songs that white people like and other nationalities like. I'm able to see past that sometime and see like the details of the story the young man is trying to tell. Or when you go deeper into the album, you'll hear album cuts that articulate more of his actual story. It makes sense, you know what I'm saying? But when we dealing with record companies and the people in power that allow your shit to get on the radio, they're not really going to accept that. They're not really gonna play those type of songs. And I say all that to say Mr. is more of a conscious rapper who ain't rapping about drugs, who ain't rapping about street shit. And unfortunately, that makes it a little bit tougher. Even though we have very popular rappers who would be considered like quote unquote conscious, just in general though, when we look at the landscape of hip hop, the most popular artists, because we got the Kendricks and J. Cole's who are considered, when people say like who's at the top of the game, most of the time those gentlemen are considered, and rightfully so, and some will consider them conscious artists, right? But when you look at after them, the remaining list of artists that are on top 10 or Billboard Chart 100, the remaining list of artists for the most part are people who rap about a certain lifestyle or look a particular way, right? And I think any rapper, if you were to change your style up and start talking about street shit, or start talking about things that are more simple and things that don't require you to think, I think you'll always be more popular. So I take my hat off to Mr. because since I've known him, he's still walking that same path. He's a vegan brother. He's a conscious brother. He believes in homeschooling his kids. There's a lot of things that he says, and he actually does those things, right? So he's talking the talk, but he's walking the walk as well. And I definitely appreciate that. So go to rebuildingtheculture.com. That's rebuildingtheculture.com. Buy one of his songs, buy a sweater. Like I said, if you don't have money to support the brother right now, look him up on Facebook, listen to something, watch a video, listen to one of his songs, something of that nature, and give him some feedback, give him some positive feedback. Even if you want to be critical, that's fine, as long as you do it the right way. Because when you are attempting to be creative, when you're attempting to do something that's outside of the box, that's outside of the traditional 9 to 5 per se, you see what I'm saying? It could be stressful. It could be stressful at times. Sometimes you can lose your determination. Sometimes you can lose your focus. So when people reach out to you and say, hey man, you're doing a good job, or hey man, I like this you're doing, all of those things can be used as fuel and motivation for somebody to move forward. So you never know how big your compliment can help someone in that position, right? So go to Rebuild the Culture. Check out what my brother Mr. Lewis is doing today. Now, last business I want to talk about. I've actually talked about this business for the third show in a row because I think it's serious, and I think with this pandemic going on, it definitely falls in line with what we're looking at. The company I'm talking about is the Freedom Paper Company. Once this pandemic hit, the first thing and again, I don't know why the fuck everybody was going to get toilet tissue, like that's going to help you if the shit really go down, whatever. Get it? Shit go down, whatever. All right. I don't know how you think toilet paper is going to help you, but the Freedom Paper Company, not only can you get toilet paper there, and this is black owned, right? So if we're going to fall into this shit where we need tissue now, cool. If you black, get it from your people. You feel me? Get it from somebody that looks just like you. So the Freedom Paper Company, they have toilet paper, they have mouthwash, they have toothpaste, and all of these things are natural. All of these things are natural. They're made from organic material. Like, this is really, really high quality stuff that they're offering. But it's mouthwash, toothpaste. The toothpaste is like charcoal activated, so it kind of gets your teeth really, really white. They have trash bags. They have family packs that I like to call pandemic packs, right? Where you can get cleaner in there. You can get tissue. You can get garbage bags. You can get glass cleaner, like everything you need to keep your house in tip-top shape. You can get printer paper there, so if you doing business, you have a business, you can get your printer paper right from the freedompapercompany.com. And again, they have African soap, a lot of different things geared at taking care of the skin of somebody that's melanated. So I really do appreciate that. And again, all of the toiletries that you need, you'll be able to get it through them as well. Because of the pandemic and everything that's going on, they are a little bit backed up, but yet and still, it's important that we support our people, man. So go to fpcpower.com. That is fpcpower.com. Check out the Freedom Paper Company. I think they have a couple deals going on right now too with the family packs and free shipping, things of that nature. So go to fpcpower.com. Check out the Freedom Paper Company. A black business trying to provide us tissue, trying to provide us toilet paper. Again, with the pandemic going on and everything happening, that's been a really hot commodity right now. If you are the kind of person that feels that you need to buy, again, several hundred rolls of toilet paper for whatever reason, why not buy it from somebody black, right? So that is the freedompapercompany.com, fpcpower.com. Now, for the topic. Not gonna be too much longer, but it's something I want to talk about specifically. Now, y'all know that, when we talk about melanated conversations and having conversations that are serious and involving our community, the biggest topic that I like to touch on is raising our children. The biggest topics I like to touch on is teenage pregnancy, is young people relating, is when we should have kids, how we should have children, how important it is to discipline our children, how important it is to read to our children, right? So I'm a big advocate of all these things because I'm a 39-year-old man who's a father of 5, and I had 4 kids before the age of 23 years old. You feel me? So I was dealing with a situation where, and this is before I was, I would say, conscious of a black man's place in America, right? So when I look back on it, I was perpetuating stereotypes. Having kids as a teenager, having kids out of wedlock. Now, this happens in all communities, but when it happens in our community, because where we stand financially, because where we stand socially, because just where we stand in this country, it makes it worse. It add to the degradation that we already have to deal with, right? So that's really a passion of mine, is making sure young men understand how serious it is when you have sex with a young woman, how serious it is when she tells you she's pregnant, how serious the building of the family. That's probably the most important job you have as a man. And I don't think a lot of us take that serious enough until we're older in age. And as parents, as men and women in the community that have kids that are around a young person or that are around young people, I think it's imperative that we teach these young people how to move in this world. And it's a lot to it, but on the basis of it, it's really just valuing yourself, right? So here's the question. This is what I want to talk about today, right? So sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we could be a parent, or even when you were young, you could think about this. You could be a parent. If you're 18-year-old, you're 19-year-old, you're 20-year-old, tells you they're having a baby, you're 17-year-old, right? Your 17-year-old son tells you he having a baby. Your 18-year-old son tells you he having a baby. My question would be, what now? Like, what do you tell them? How do you help them become the best father they can be, keeping in mind that the decision so far or that scenario they find themselves in so far is a sign of irresponsibility, right? So we have to understand that. But the situation is, what do you do though, right? Because of course, before they have kids, you want to sit them down, let them know how important it is to build a family the correct way, how important it is to wear condoms, how important it is to treat your sperm treat your sperm like it's everything. Like where you having sex unprotected could ruin your life. It could give away your power as a man to a degree, right? So these are all things we want to teach our kids before they have a kid or before they get a girl pregnant. But what if, let's take it one step further, what if he gets a girl pregnant, she's having the baby, right? So how do you help your young man prepare himself to be a father? Which is an oxymoron in a way, because you should be prepared or whatever, but anyways, how do you help your young man prepare himself to be a father? So I'm going to go over a few things I think we need to focus on in order to help your young man be the best father for the kid, the best role model, and just the best person in general, right? So I would say the first thing that you want to look at, the first thing you want to talk to your young man about, the first thing you want to make sure he's aware of is the importance of defining the relationship he has with that young woman, and taking that definition extremely serious. Let me tell you what I mean by that. As a young man, sometimes you can find yourself in a situation where you're having sex with a young woman and you guys don't have kids or nothing, and y'all just messing around. And if you lie to her, if you mistreat her, do things she don't like, women can get upset. Women can get vindictive. Women can be charged off of emotion and, do shit to you, not physically, but all based out of spite, right? But here's the thing, family. What you need to make sure your son, your young man, is completely aware of, when it's a baby involved, that heightens everything like 50 to 75%. If she was going to be vindictive because you lying or you playing games, it's going to be heightened because there's a baby. If she was gonna be upset at you or be disappointed in you because of something you're not doing, when there's a baby involved, all of these things become heightened. Now, what a lot of young men do is, and sometimes unknowingly, right? You get a young girl pregnant, you think y'all could have a future together. Now, this is before you've planned out your future completely. This is before you really have settled into the kind of person you're going to be. Because in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you can say whatever you want to say about it, no teenager in America should have a baby. Under no circumstances. I would say a person shouldn't have a child today 25-ish, maybe sometime earlier, depending on your maturity level and how stable you are in your life with your partner. But at the end of the day, if your brain isn't fully developed, it's no fucking way you should be having a kid. Just not at all, right? So the first thing he needs to do is define what he's doing with that girl. If he says, look, mom, dad, I love her and I want to be in a relationship with her, then this is going to require him to settle down. Y'all got to start looking for a spot together. Y'all got to get your own spot, because you have a kid living with your mom. That's some backward shit. Unless it's an extreme circumstance. But typically, if you have a baby and you don't have a place to live, that's kind of a sign that you shouldn't be having a damn baby, right? So the first thing he needs to do, okay, boom, this is my woman. I need to put myself in a position where I can take care of her or help her take care of her and the baby. Like, I don't believe that a man should be the one just providing all the time. A woman, she's able-bodied too. She should work and provide, and however you guys want to break that down, you can. But he needs to define that relationship. If he decides he wants to be in a relationship with her, then boom, that's what it has to be. He needs to begin working towards that. Meaning, if he was a young dude that was a player that liked dipping here and messing with that girl over there, he can't do that now. Because if you are telling this woman that you guys are going to be in a relationship, you guys have a baby coming, or the baby's there already, if she find out you're cheating on her, she find out you're being unloyal, she finds out she can't trust you, not only will she make your life pretty uncomfortable, but she'll be in the position to affect how and when you see your child, right? So she'll be in a position, you'll put her in like a semi-position of power by playing those type of games with her, because typically young people aren't even aware of the whole joint custody thing or the custody thing in general, right? Typically a woman gets custody because she had the baby, she's the woman. A young man really ain't thinking about a lot of that shit. So he needs to define what he wants to be in that woman's life. If it's a relationship, He needs to move toward being faithful to her. He needs to move towards getting a sense of stability, whether that be a place to live, whether that be the right type of finances coming through, right? Because a lot of times young men, one of the biggest things I see young men doing is, you can say you love your kid, right? But if you haven't put the time and the energy into properly learning how to love yourself, it's going to be extremely difficult to love anybody else, even your child. Just because you have a baby, people think you have a baby and all of a sudden you come responsible. Or you have a baby and I don't think any of that shit happens. You are who you are, right? You can love your child and still neglect them and still treat them in a particular way because you haven't fully learned how to love yourself, right? So he has to define what that relationship is going to be with that little girl. If he decides that they're going to be in a relationship, they're going to be together, then he has to start moving in that direction, right? Now, if he decides that, you know what, this was a one-time thing, or this was a girl that we had sex and there was no real feelings involved, cool. Then you got to say, boom. Immediately, he needs to create a stable environment for himself, whether it be at his mom's house temporarily. That should be temporary. Once you decide you have a baby, you're a man now. You shouldn't be living with your goddamn mama, right? So if he decides he wants to have a baby and he decides he don't want to be with the woman, cool. Now he needs to start doing the same thing. He needs to start setting up a stable environment for himself so he can go and get joint custody. Hear me when I say this, family. If you want to live a life where you're not allowing the child support system to fuck up your income, to put a dent on your finances, to fuck up your life, you need to get stable. You need to realize, all right, I got a baby coming in 3 months. I don't want to be in a relationship with the woman. So for one, I can't mess with her at all. No sexual interaction, no flirting. Like, I'm not going to lead her on whatsoever. And then I also got to get stable as soon as possible. Stability is the key. Again, that's you in a particular place in life where you're stable, you have a routine. Everything isn't so up in the air. A lot of young people, they everywhere. One minute they feel like doing this, one minute they feel like doing that, right? You need to realize if you've decided to have a baby for whatever reason, because again, I don't think teenagers should have kids under no circumstances, but if you find yourself in this situation, this is what you need to talk to your son about. He needs to get as stable as possible. He needs to get as stable as possible. And if this isn't something you've done in his life before, you need to make sure, and this is my opinion, some may not agree with this, but this is my opinion, and this may come before defining the relationship and stability. He needs to get extreme, like he needs to be aware of who he is. He needs knowledge of self. Like if he, again, I'll go back to what I said a few minutes ago. If he doesn't love himself, if he hasn't learned how to love himself, if he hasn't learned how to deal with his inconsistencies in his personality, if he hasn't learned how to figure out what are his best qualities, where is he going in life, he needs to get a strong sense of self. If you have a strong sense of self, can't nobody really tell you nothing about yourself. Can't nobody really hurt you with words. If you got a strong sense of self, you become more consistent, right? You become more consistent mentally, which is the most important part, right? If he has a strong knowledge of self, then it'll ooze into the child that he's attempting to raise. But a lot of times I see young people walking around yelling, I love my kids, I love my kids, I love my kids. And I say, okay, well, that's impossible. Well, let me take that back. Yes, you love them. But to the degree that you love them, that varies, because I'm looking at how you treat yourself. I'm looking at how you value yourself, what you do for yourself. And if you're not doing this shit for yourself, there's no way possible you're going to do it for your kid, right? So this is what we're dealing with when we see young people who don't even have a fully developed brain, when we see them partaking in having children, right? So he needs to be stable. He needs to define the relationship that he has with that young girl, and he needs to get knowledge of self. And I would actually say knowledge of self would be first. Like figuring out who you are as a person, figuring out where your positive attributes, figuring out the things you need to work on. Like nobody can help you with that shit, in my opinion. These are things you have to do on your own, and unfortunately, which makes it hard, is if you're a young person, you have a kid, now you're kind of, in my opinion, accelerating this process. Because if there's no kids involved, as a 17, 18-year-old person, you can just live your life and go to school and experience different things and begin reading and knowledge itself can be developed through trial and error, through knowledge seeking to a degree, right? But sometimes when we put ourselves in these situations where, boom, a baby's coming, now I have to be a man. That's why I don't recommend it, because it's really difficult. Like, that's not even a thing. It can't really happen like that. You know what I'm saying? But if you find yourself in a situation where you have a young man that has a baby or has a baby on the way, he has to understand the importance of his stability. He has to understand knowing who he is. The knowledge of self part is key, because a lot of young black men who grow up in urban communities, some of them get tricked into thinking living on the other side of the law is the lifestyle for them. Whether it be from the music they listen to, whether it be just the environment, the people they see in the environment making money. But a lot of young men, not all, but a lot of young men seem to find it more feasible for them to be involved or make money on the other side of the law. And from my personal opinion, having older brothers who had to take to the street because my mom was sick and she couldn't really work the way that she needed to, and my brothers began hustling, and they was good at it. Like, they became extremely proficient at what they were doing. So their angle became, okay, I know the legal ramifications of this, but this is so profitable. And as a kid, I haven't understood that. Like, my brothers was lending money to older members of my family. They made more money than anybody in my family that was working, right? A lot of these young dudes that I see today, it ain't even about the money thing, as far as the practicality of it. Meaning, if you can work at a job for, let's say, Amazon, McDonald's manager, you name a job, if you can make $16, $17 an hour working the job, and that's more than you're making hustling, you shouldn't be a hustler. That's how I see living on the other side of the law. A lot of young men get confused because of, in my opinion, them being lazy, them not wanting to get involved in corporate America for whatever reason. Whatever the situation may be, they put themselves in positions where they feel hustling is the way to go. And they'll even do this when, there's a kid on the way, or they have a kid already, right? So now you're risking, if you play in the street game a particular way, you're putting your child's future at risk and your future at risk. Because if you in jail, you can't help nobody. You know what I'm saying? So I see a lot of young men who, to me, get confused with how life works. Again, I know people who began hustling and they were very proficient at it. And for me, if you're extremely poised, and if you're extremely profitable, if you're extremely, if you know how to do it right as far as hustling is concerned, well, that same person can translate that skill set into a business owner. That same person can translate that skill set into some type of community leader, right? So when I look at someone who's proficient at selling drugs or doing something on the other side of the law, I'm not quick to say, hey, stop, even though it isn't right to a degree. But when we talk about selling drugs in America, I mean, the pharmaceutical companies are selling more weed than you're going to ever sell in your life. Or they selling more dope than you ever going to sell in your life. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not quick to point my finger at my brothers and sisters who are choosing to live on the other side of the law. We just got to tell them, you have to weigh your options. You have to put everything on a scale and weigh. Life is about balance and options, and see what you're actually working with. And a lot of people will be better suited to actually work a regular job. A lot of people find out years later that the hustling shit wasn't for them. Then they decide to get into corporate America or infuse themselves in normal society, right? So you don't want a young, and I say all that to say, you don't want a young person with that type of identity crisis. You want to make sure that they understand the importance of the decisions that they make. And sometimes young men will say, hey, I'm a hustle, I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do out here in these streets. But see, now you have a child, so now you can get killed out there, you can get hella years in the penitentiary out there, and none of that's really gonna help your child, right? When I'm looking at black men in America and how we are overpopulated in the prison system already, and how once you get into the pen, you become a slave, you feel me? You in there working for 10 cents a day or whatever the fuck that may be, right? So we don't wanna put ourselves in those positions. And what parent wants their kids to be involved in the street life or be involved in any negative activity that can lead to a grim outcome, right? So we need to make sure our young men have knowledge of self so they can know what their strengths and weaknesses are, right? A lot of young men, they're not built for the street life. And we see that when they get hit or they get caught for whatever reason and they snitching on everybody. Then they go to jail and they get fucked up for it. You know what I'm saying? It's a ugly cycle that everybody isn't prepared to partake in. So the safest thing to do is don't fuck with it at all. Figure out a career that you want to do. Figure out some kind of business that you would be proficient at running. You see what I'm saying? But all of this is about knowledge of self. If a young person knows who they are, to me, they'll be more likely to make decisions that'll affect everybody in their family in a positive way, right? So if you have a young person family, they have a young girl, she's pregnant, make sure you go through these things with them to help them out as much as you can, because what we don't want either is for our young people to have kids and they be so irresponsible that we gotta step in as grandparents. I'm tired of seeing that shit, family, where your grandmama or your grandfather gotta take care of the baby because you out here just fucking all frivolously. Now you put hella kids in the society, right? So when we look at black society, melanated people in the United States of America, and what we need to do to improve, what steps we can take to improve, the different things we can do to make our neighborhoods better, to make our lives better. If you don't like racism, if you don't like white supremacy, if you don't like if you don't like being treated unjustly, if you don't like any of these things, of course, I'm not going to tell anybody black that if we acted better and got better jobs and created better families, that's going to protect us from the system. I'm not saying that, because we still have, different entities that we have to fight against regardless. But I do think it'll make it easier if every household had a mom, a dad, and a kid in the home. I think all of this would be much easier on us. Right? And again, I'm not speaking in absolutes here, because single mothers produce lawyers, single mothers produce doctors, single mothers produce extremely productive members in society. But I would say that there are tools and different things that you missed out on by not having two parents in the home. And I think that'll affect you your entire life. I'm not saying you won't be successful. I'm not saying you won't ultimately make good decisions and live a good life, but there are tools that you missed out on. So ultimately, that should be the goal for everybody in our society. And if in black society specifically, and as black parents, if we begin to infuse these ideals into our kids' heads, if we make sure our young men know how important their sperm is, like know how important it is to protect their lineage, that's pretty much what you're dealing with when you have sex randomly with women. You're giving them the ability to create life for you, and you don't even know this woman like that. You haven't even established who you are as a person, but yet you're conceiving a new person with this other person you don't know. You see what I'm saying? This is a real fucked up cycle that we have a say in. Again, some of the racist aspects of society we gotta just deal with. We have to just navigate around. But some of this shit is up to us. Like how we start our families is up to us. If all young men in the community took it more serious, if all young women had mothers who took their future more serious. And I'm not this big proponent of just having an abortion every time you get pregnant. By no stretch of the imagination do I think that's a form of birth control. But at the end of the day, you need to think about your kid's future. You need to because I think it's mind-boggling to me how sometimes people, just because the kid is alive, right? Your kid's not dead. They have a nice smile. They're clean. That don't mean you did a good job. That doesn't mean you did a good job. There's so many other inconsistencies that kid could be dealing with. There's so many other personality traits that kid can be dealing with. You don't know how they're adjusting to not having a father in the home or not having a mother in the home, right? So we can't see that happen and say, well, my kid turned out fine. Well, no. I don't know any, and this is me personally, I don't know any young man that I grew up with, that I was around, who didn't have a father, who didn't feel the effects of having that father. Now, today, is he a good father? I know guys who learned from not having one and didn't want to be like they dad, and they're good fathers today. I know some guys who said fuck it and they just gonna live their life and, you know, not be held down by the child support system or not be held down by a woman who's being vindictive. I've seen dudes do it both ways. Most of the guys I know are good fathers. Most of the guys I know do put their best foot forward to be in their kids' lives. But at the same time, I can recall throughout our youth things that we all were lacking because we didn't have that two-parent home dynamic. And again, you can just have a mom in the home with an uncle who helps out, or a cousin who helps out, or an older brother who helps out. I'm not saying that those individuals can't contribute to his psyche in an extremely positive manner, but there's nothing like having a father. There's absolutely nothing like having a father in your life to walk you through these things, right? So we need to get back to that, family. We need to stop thinking that we don't need a man or we don't need a woman in the house or that we can do this shit by ourselves. I think this welfare system and a lot of the things that society has put on our community has made the women feel like they can do this shit by themselves, and that's impossible. Now, I can drive my car with my feet, family, but that don't mean it's gonna turn out right. That don't mean it's recommended. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to how we deal with each other, how we relate to one another, what we go through in this society, we have a say. Like, we have a level of accountability that we need to hold ourselves to as well. And a part of that, in my opinion, is how we start our families, right? So this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. I'm going to continue to do these shows, man, just getting stuff off my mind, being able to talk to y'all and come to y'all with the things that I've been thinking about is really therapeutic for me. You feel me? So I'm gonna keep pushing on with the show. Gonna have some guests on the show here in the next few weeks. So again, I want to thank everybody who likes the show, who comments on the show. I really do appreciate it. You can find the show at melanatedfathers.com. You can find the show at Melanated Fathers TV on YouTube. You can find the show on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere podcasts are found, or everywhere podcasts are. You can find the show. Right now, family, I am currently doing a shelter in place community outreach program, and it's been going wonderful. What we do is every Monday and Wednesdays we have lunch for the community from 11 a.m. until the food's gone. The angle of or the specific people we wanted to do this for was people who was adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, whether that be you can't work now, whether that be your kids aren't going to school, so you're feeding them more, so your finances are shorter, whether it be someone older who money is not as much as it used to be because of what's going on, whatever the situation may be. We wanted to figure out a way to help people and give people food in this time, and it's been working out way better than I anticipated. I got to thank everybody who's donated to this point. Out of all the events that we've done so far, this is the only time we've asked for donations, and the community just came through for us tenfold. So everything we've purchased so far for the lunches have been done through donations. So everybody who donated, I really appreciate it. If you haven't donated yet, you need to. If you haven't donated yet, you can donate through my Cash App. That's $Melanated Fathers 100. That's $Melanated Fathers 100 to donate. If you want to do it through PayPal, you can look up my name, Harrison Anderson, on PayPal. You can do it through there. If you want to just bring it to the funeral home, 3601 5th Avenue, Sacramento, California, 95817, you can bring it to the funeral home. But so far, just seeing the look on people's faces when we've been able to help them out, when we've been able to, provide them with a gleam of hope. For some of them, it's about the food, but it's not really about the food, right? It's about the feeling that you get. It's about just putting yourself in a position to help people. I think sometimes we get into this thing where we want to talk about what we see. We want to be like critics of everything we're looking at. I don't like this, I don't like that. Well, shit, man, if you're looking at a lot of shit you don't like, try to fix it. Like, shut up, stop all the goddamn complaining. Too many times in our community we're looking at things, but you making it worse. If you're just sitting there talking negatively about somebody or something, don't do that. Get out and put your best foot forward to help out the people in the community that you give a fuck about. You see what I'm saying? And my organization, Melanated Fathers of America, along with Thompson Rose Chapel, is sponsoring this program. And again, my website, my organization is to help black families. Like that's the primary goal through the lens of a black father, right? But at times like this, it's important that we help everybody. Like the food we're serving, anybody can come and eat. Well, like we ain't on that type of shit. But at the same time, I do understand that my community has a specific need. My community goes through things that are specific to black folks. So I have to be aware of that, and I have to focus on that, because there's no way I can go out and help just in general. Like, because of this pandemic, in the lunch we're serving, we're helping everybody, right? But in general, when I put together a program or I put together something that I think can help people, my people are on my mind first. So I don't feel I can truly step out of the black community and help out, whether it be with the homeless issue, whether it be with autism, whether it be with whatever, depression, all these different things, right? Even though black folks deal with these things, I have to deal with my people first. It's like if like my boy Jeff Brown say from the Zo What Show, if black community was a house, it'll be a burning building. You feel me? So if my house is on fire, how the hell am I gonna come over there and help you do anything when I have an urgent issue that needs to be addressed right now? And that's how I see it when I look at my community and the different things we go through. So the majority of the things I do, now I'm never gonna turn anybody away regardless of how you look, but the majority of the things that I do is specifically for the black community based on our needs. So I want to thank everybody that has gave money, that have gave supplies, that have gave their time. I have family members that have come in to help me out every week, taking time out of their busy schedules to help us. And I've been really, really, really appreciative of everybody that's been able to help out. So we're going to keep it going. We do it Mondays and Wednesdays from 11 a.m. until the food's gone. We're thinking about adding a few more days here shortly. So stay on the lookout for that. Again, man, this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. I appreciate everybody rocking with me. I already told you where you can find the podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Melanated Fathers 100. My personal Instagram is at Southpaw_100. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. This has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. I'm out.